Habits are a big part of who we are. What we do habitually makes up a lot of what we do entirely. It's actually estimated that up to 70% of our waking behavior is made up of habitual behavior. Sometimes we develop habits that we are not even aware of until they become a problem. There's a lot of talk online about forming habits. It's a whole niche in and of itself. It's all about the gym and money. What if you want to work on a skill or a mindset that's just for you? What if you want to work on the things people can't see? What if you want to develop your creativity? So today, I'm going to tell you about how I've taken some habits that I've formed over the years and used the lessons from those habits to form new creative habits. But first, and very importantly, let's talk about what makes a good habit and a bad habit. Bad habit is a repetitive negative behavior that can harm your health, well-being, or daily life, while a good habit is a consistent automatic behavior that improves physical, mental, or emotional well-being. So we need to take the act of being creative and practicing your art form and make it into a non-negotiable automatic habit, like walking the dog or brushing your teeth, those things that you just do. Automatic. But there's a problem when you're a beginner undertaking a new creative hobby because you're just not going to be very good at it. It's always immediately reflected when you try and sit down and start practicing. Your current skill level is right there in your face and you have this vision in your head like, I want to create this big, perfect masterpiece. And it's just never going to look that way because you've never done it before. You haven't practiced. So you need a way to keep yourself coming back to the practice because that's the only way you'll reach that goal. And this is exactly what happened to me a few years ago when I started drawing again. I had this vision in my head of how good I should be. So I sat down, started practicing, and I wouldn't reach the goal I had in my head. Because of that, I just didn't want to continue. And I didn't. I gave up. And I think that happens to a lot of people. So what I had to do was form a habit. And to do that, I used habits that I had already formed. And I applied those habits and the lessons I learned from those habits to drawing. So for example, one habit that I have that I've been doing for years and years and years is going to the gym. I prep my food. I always make sure my gym bag is ready. It has my shoes in. It has my clean clothes. I keep it by the door so I'm always ready to go. I wasn't strong. I wasn't fit. I couldn't even do a pull-up. But you have to adjust your expectations, right? So I would set small goals for myself. Be able to do half a pull-up, one whole pull-up, something like that. One, to forming a creative habit, is to adjust your expectation. We can't compare to others around us because who knows how long they've been doing it. But you'll never get anywhere if you take that approach. And you've got to remember that comparison, as we all know, is the thief of joy. It's about repetition, not perfection. Step 2. I work here at my desk. And when I first started out drawing again, I would use an easel. And the easel is very difficult to set up. It's too big, it's too cumbersome, it takes a long time. Anything that introduces friction into your workflow, something that you want to practice, is going to make it more likely that you are going to stop that habit. So I had to make it easy. So now what I do, I keep my pencils right here on my desk where I work. So whenever I get a free moment, I could pick up a pencil and start drawing. I also keep my sketchbooks right here so I can pull them out, push my keyboard out the way, put my sketchbooks down and draw. And the third thing I do is that I have a Pinterest board saved with all my references because a lot of the time when you're an artist, you can spend a long time trying to find references. That's what I would recommend for anybody who is trying to form a creative habit is make it easy for yourself. And by far my favorite step for forming my creative habit was the 2-minute rule. And the 2-minute rule is basically what it sounds. 2 minutes, you sit down and you start your timer and you tell yourself, in these 2 minutes, I am going to commit to whatever task it is that I'm trying to practice. I use this watch here that I pretty much always have either on my wrist or at the desk. I set 2 minutes on it and then I just start drawing. And you'll be surprised how often 2 minutes will turn into 15, 20, 30, an hour. And you end up getting some really, really good practice. But it really helps you overcome that feeling of the practice, the time you undertake is kind of daunting or something. 2 minutes feels a lot more manageable. So grab a timer, 2 minutes, and see how far you go. 4. Step 4 is an interesting one because I don't think it's intuitive to a lot of people, but you should try and track your progress. And you could do that in a number of ways. A lot of people like to use a calendar. So each day you practice, say you want to practice every day, you just tick off the day and you can see a visual representation of your progress. And I think that's really helpful to a lot of people because you get to see how far you've come. And I think it gives you perspective, and perspective is super important when you're practicing something like this, because you often don't know how far you've actually come. Even though you don't see how far you've come right now, you can turn around and see the miles behind you. But you still have good days and bad days, but I think that perspective really, really helps. I like to put things down in a line over the course of the week so that I know each day I've done this, and when I've got 7, I know I've done every day, and then I can reset. Step 5, as silly as it sounds, is that you just have to start, because if you don't start, nothing is going to happen. I think we can spend a lot of time like looking at tutorials and researching things. I certainly do that a lot, and it just ends up being time wasted. So remember, step 1, adjust your expectations. Step 2, make it easy. Step 3, the 2-minute rule. And step 4 is to track your progress. And the tracking your progress is kind of like a reward. I'm very much of the opinion that creativity is within our control. There's kind of a misconception that creativity just sort of comes and goes whenever, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I think the best artists in the world are people who can turn that creativity into a practice, and they can do it every single day. It's not like, people tend to think in other dimensions of their life that they can form this habit and they can have, like I said with the gym stuff, you can go to the gym and that can be a habit. But when it comes to creativity, I just got to send it. People who are successful artists are the artists that have made a habit out of creating. The same way people who make a habit of anything else become successful at that thing. It's a skill to access that part of yourself. You need to develop a good process which primes your brain to be in the right mode. And then once you're in that right mode, the creativity actually flows more easily. The problem is that the reason you think creativity only flows at random times is because you've only allowed it to flow at random times. And remember, you'll have good days and bad days. We all do. And you'll fall off the wagon. But it's not going to move unless you jump back on. So make sure if you fall off, just jump back on. You can miss a day here and there. Just try not to miss 2.